Hello and welcome to this episode of Our Lives, and we are joined this week by Katie from Makeup by Katie. Do you recall the 90s where our favourite shade of everything was coffee shimmer or heather shimmer and none of our foundations matched our face? We're all in our 40s now. Have we stuck with the same makeup look? What do we do? Have you contoured and ended up looking like a zebra? Casey's hopefully going to talk us through her journey and give us all some tips and just talk about the beauty industry and how it treats women of a certain age in general. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I was really excited to have you on. I love your content. I think it speaks to me, particularly being a woman of a particular age, 40 plus that. Because a lot of the content I think out there is aimed at much younger girls. You've had a journey on TikTok. Could you tell us about how this has all come about for you? How did you get into this?
So I was aware of TikTok. Obviously, my daughter downloaded TikTok in lockdown and I let her. She was way too young for it, but I let her because she needed something to do. And I've run my makeup business myself. So I'm actually a bridal makeup artist. That's my proper official job for about 15 years. And when TikTok launched, everybody said, you got to get on TikTok. And all I'd known about TikTok was what I'd seen my daughter do, but obviously her algorithm was very different to mine. I thought I saw silly dancing and silly trends. And for years I said, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me and my client. And then I think I then downloaded my own TikTok, where originally my TikTok was there just to monitor what my daughter was doing and to give her an audience because she wasn't allowed to go public. So I was there to kind of like and comment. And I started looking at my algorithm changed. And I thought, do you know what? Actually, every single industry and trade is on here. So it was this time last year, I decided to commit to posting a video a day. And I started doing that, a video a day, every single day, sometimes 200 views, sometimes maybe 900 views. And then I think it was in March, a video that I had done in February suddenly got traction. And it was actually a video. It wasn't my usual stuff. It was a video that I was doing. This is actually my daughter's bedroom. So I was sitting in my daughter's bedroom and I was going through her makeup bag. And I made a comment about 12-year-olds not reading. I think I was trying to prop my phone up and I said, oh, I need to find a book. Of course, there's no books in here. 12-year-olds don't read. Well, that roused masses. And then obviously and then somebody started to share it. And over the course of about 3 days, I went from having about, honestly, 400 followers to about 20,000 followers. And then it just kind of carried on growing. And the value in the anger that I triggered, I mean, the literate, the 12-year-old bookworms were so offended. And then just, you're going through your daughter's makeup bag. How dare you? And then it just grew from there. And then I think I got to about 35,000 followers. And I thought, you know what, actually, I can see how much help I'm giving people. And then another video went viral in September and I went from 35,000 followers to 100,000 in about 6 days.
I bet your phone was blowing up with notifications.
Yeah, it was hot. It was constantly hot. Yeah. But then I thought, you know what, actually, it was way faster than I ever expected it. And it's way faster than most people's growth. But I had to change because originally I was like, I'm too old for all of this. But actually, what I noticed was there's so many people out there that need the content that I'm delivering. And all of a sudden, within the space of about 8 weeks, it suddenly became my full-time job, as in my earning potential and what I can bring in and the long-term prospects over bridal makeup, which is a good earner. It just flipped so quickly. And my chaotic brain has had to really kind of try and knuckle down and deal with how to strategize this, because I live on a wing and a prayer. I whirl through life. Yeah. So that's how it's happened. And the community that I've suddenly developed has just been it's been an eye-opener. I'm so grateful. I'm loving every second of it. It's hard work. I now do 3 videos a day, every single day. So I'm committed to the bit now.
I think it's really interesting because we're a similar age. And I think for me, I can't bear Facebook. I don't like Instagram. I don't like it. But what I find on TikTok is it is a community. You've hit the nail on the head there. It's a community. And I found you because I'm a woman of a certain age who has no clue how to do my makeup. I grew up in the 90s, and just as I said in the intro, it was all heather shimmer, coffee shimmer, or faded that very, very dark red lipstick that made us all look like something of a horror film.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the foundation not matching. And I think a lot of the content is aimed at women or girls so much younger than ourselves. It's I needed something to give me sort of a confidence boost in trying new things, but also trying things that are almost acceptable, if you like, because I don't think the beauty industry for me is aimed a lot still at women our age.
Agree. And the thing is, we are in that we're in that kind of like little middle section, aren't we, where I know that in my heart I think of myself, I'm still 26, 27.
Yes.
But we're not older. We're just in that little middle section that really nobody knows what to do with. And you've got 20-year-olds that are trying to show us how to do mature makeup, and you're not mature because your skin doesn't move when you tip your head to the side. But we don't feel old because most of us, a lot of us will still have our mums around, and we're like, no, my mum's old. I'm still a baby. And we're not, I don't know. I just think as well, there's so much misinformation as well, that although there are lots of 20-year-olds who are doing great content, like brilliant stuff, there's also a lot of people out there who are saying that now you're 40, you've got to do this. But that's still not the case, because just because we're all over 40, we don't all look the same. We're all still different. That's where I'm trying to fill that gap, that I'm not trying to bracket us all together in the same, that once you hit 40, you've got to all suddenly start putting your bronzer and your blusher up high. I'm trying to teach people as well, so that actually if they ever lost the app, they could then go on and do it without me, so teaching people how to understand their own face.
How do you think as well we've all been affected by, and this is a bit of a left field question, by filters as well? Because when I watch some content sometimes, I think, but my skin looks like somebody's, like if you find a £5 in your back pocket that's come out of the washing machine, that's what my skin looks like. It doesn't look like, but I don't know. I think for me, I have a little bit of trouble deciding what's reality and what is filters. And I don't know whether that's something you come across day to day as well.
Actually, before I had my TikTok, I had a sort of secondary business which was called Beauty Unfiltered. I've closed it down now only just because of time, but the whole thing was about, and I started this in about sort of 2018 when filters started becoming a big thing, because I was noticing, people were sitting in my chair. Hang on, I'm going to push my door shut because my husband is on the phone and he has no indoor voice. I was noticing people were sitting in my chair. And remember, when I do bridal makeup, I can sometimes do grandmother of the bride, mother of the bride, bride, and a bridesmaid. And so I see all ages. And I was getting young brides and bridesmaids sitting in my chair, and they would apologise for having terrible skin, in quote marks. I'm looking at their plump, collagen-filled skin, and I'm saying, talk to me about what is it that you don't love about your skin? And it was all that they could see, their pores. And I think we just got to a stage where we are so used to seeing not just filtered but airbrushed. Before filters, we had airbrush on these big beauty ads, and people were so used to seeing this flawless, unrealistic, unnatural version of skin that what was a perfectly normal skin became abnormal. And then you try and explain to somebody in the 45 minutes that you've got them in your chair, you have to have pores because you're a porous person. You're not made, your skin's not made of Tupperware, your skin's not made of ceramic. Your skin has to function as skin. And then it's not even got better, it's got progressively worse, because TikTok filters now, the AI filters are so good that you have no chance in seeing what is real life and what's not. And it's so damaging because they're aimed at women, they're not aimed at men. And that's what makes me rage.
I would agree about the beauty industry. Well, not just the beauty industry now. I think all industry is very unfair. And I think it always has been towards women in particular. We used to hear men age like a fine wine. They get better
Yeah.
looking as they get older because we appreciate the lines and the wrinkles, and because it comes with wisdom. We don't get that same grace, unfortunately.
Listen, you only have to look at the press recently about Keanu Reeves and his beautiful partner, and he's aged like, and they use phrases like silver fox. And I can tell you something, my husband is 18 months older than me. He's downstairs, he looks in the mirror and he gives his little belly a tap, but he has never once looked at his face and gone, oh, my eyes are aging, because it's not a concern for him. It doesn't change how people perceive him. It just doesn't enter into his mind, but it does. And am I hypocritical being in the beauty industry where I help women figure stuff like that out? Maybe, but we're not going to change that overnight. It's not all of a sudden going to change, is it, that women can walk around and we're suddenly perceived the same as men? So I want to help people understand how they can, and it's not like turn back time or reverse, but just feel like themselves again. You don't have to do it.
I can completely get on board with that. So as you can see, if anyone who's listening, I'm wrinkling my forehead now. I look like a Shar-Pei because I have very tight wrinkles on my forehead, and I don't want to look 21, but I want to look like the best version of myself at 45. And I think there's a huge difference. It isn't about turn back time. But also, I've had threads before now, and I've even bought those things that you stick on the side of your face and you lift it, your face up. And I've considered surgery. And what stopped me is, I think we talk about this now, but in the 90s growing up, the image, it was everyone had to be stick thin. And when you look at Bridget Jones's diaries, and she was considered fat, and you're like, what?
So
Excuse
damaging.
me?
Yeah.
It was so damaging to everybody's, and we've mentioned it before on the podcast as well, with the Special K adverts. Can you pinch an inch? Well, you should be able to pinch an inch because that's your skin, and any other bits. And I think that stayed with me now. And the reason that I haven't chosen surgery or looked into that further is because I don't want to say to my daughter, you're anything other than perfect. And I feel the onus is on me to say you are beautiful, and it's just from the way we grow up has made us feel very differently about what is a completely normal. Aging is completely normal. It is.
And it would be unnatural if we can't. I mean, I think more people these days of this generation needs to see that film, Death Becomes Her. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
That's what happens if you try and stop time. It's nothing good can come of it. I'm aging. I know that I'm very lucky that I grew up with very, very oily skin, to the point where my friend, when I used to work for a big makeup brand, I had a colleague who we traveled everywhere, and she would be on what she used to call J.R. Ewing watch, which is where she would look and I would have oil bubbling up on my skin. She would go, J.R. could drill for oil. Is it Dallas? But because I had such oily skin and because of that, then such horrible acne, now that I'm 46, my skin is now just a bit combination, but I think it's held my skin in good stead. I'm not dry, so I haven't aged like some people have aged. But the parts of me that have aged, like I'm going very grey. I've got crinkles. I'm showing you on camera. I've got the crinkles around my eyes. When they first appeared, it took me by surprise, but actually I love them. And because it shows that I've smiled a lot. And I think when I think of my grandma, I think of her smile lines, and I think of those things with her. And I want my kids to remember my smiley eyes, and my grandkids to remember my smiley eyes. I don't want to look pulled and taut. I want to look soft and healthy. And I think that's language that I don't hear the beauty industry talking about a lot. And it's not easy to get into that mind frame, because believe me, there's plenty of other things that I look in the mirror and I could say mean things to myself about, but I'm really careful, and I don't now. I don't say anything horrible to myself, because I have people on TikTok doing that for me.
Well, I can imagine the comment section on any social media is not the most. You've got to be pretty resilient to have a big audience base like that. But I still think it is that, and it is like, this is the life I've lived, and this is the reflection of it, whether I love it or hate it. This is it. And I'm not saying that I would discount every bit of work or anything in the future, but I do just want to feel like the best possible version of myself. But I think, again, and this is sort of turning into a bit of a feminist conversation here, is I used to hear the phrase, and this one really winds me up: mutton dressed as lamb. So if a woman's done herself up, yeah, isn't that gross? Oh, she's mutton dressed as lamb. Why? Because she's trying to look a particular way. So you're either not taking care of yourself enough, or you're looking after yourself too. It almost feels like we can't win.
No, because we're not supposed to win. This is the thing. I heard a phrase once where somebody said women are programmed to be as beautiful as possible. That's what we should want, but we should never once say that we look or feel beautiful. Right? So we are supposed to be as beautiful and attractive as possible, but as humble and self-depreciative, because the minute you start to say nice things about yourself in public, it makes people feel uncomfortable. But this is the thing. I was not I am very good with makeup. I understand my face. I know exactly how to pull my features out. I am not blessed with a symmetrical face, a petite face. I know how to make myself look more attractive. That's my skill, right? When I was at school, I was bullied about how I looked. I really was. What was my point? Hold on a second. Here we go. Perimenopause brain kicking in. That's it. So when I get criticisms on TikTok, which has been by far the worst platform for it, I make people feel uncomfortable by my retort is always, well, I actually think I look fucking great. People don't know what to do with it.
I love that.
They don't know what to do with it because they can't argue back. Like, people talk about my hair all the time. If you don't know what I look like, I've got very curly hair and I wear it in like a big fringy round, quite a 70s 80s style, but I love that. People are all the time like, your hair makes you look old. I had one yesterday, no hate, but your hair is the hair of a granny. And I said, listen, I don't give a crap. I am obsessed with my hair. I said, I'm obsessed with my hair. I think I look amazing and I don't need your validation. It was the quickest a troll has naffed off. And I don't say it because I want people, because I think I'm amazing. I don't, but people don't know how to respond to a woman who is confident.
No.
And I will fake that confidence to make people back off because I don't want to.
Yeah, and it's also, it's about attacking our appearance is often the first. That's what should hurt us the most. If someone told me I was stupid, I'd be more offended by that than you're ugly. Yeah, yes. My mate, I've got mirrors. I know exactly what my face looks like day in, day out.
I'm just tired of having to be humble all the time and be like, when, you know, I teach my kids, if somebody says you look nice, you say, thank you. So do you. I love your bag. I'm tired of being made to feel like I can't feel lovely and have to be like, no, I'm terrible. I'm just a terrible old. I'm not. I'm happy with how I look. I work hard to keep myself healthy, to keep myself happy, and I'm not going to bow to it, and it throws people off, and I love it. I love throwing people off with that confidence because they don't expect it.
No, because we're not supposed to have it.
Yes.
So we've put the world to rights somewhat, and I think we could probably do that for hours. But how does your skin change as you age? For all our listeners or anybody watching this, is because I've noticed. So the old jowls have started to set in. It's is that the same for everybody? Will everybody's face age the same? Do we all age differently? What do we do?
No. So this is the thing, everybody ages differently. And this is why I think it's important to understand your face. Your face shape won't change as you get older, but certain parts of it will become exacerbated. Listen, there's a science to the skin that your collagen will break down and the bounce of your skin will go, you will lose elasticity, but how that looks on each person is going to be really different. So where I was saying before, I was super oily. I am not getting lines and wrinkles yet. I know that I will one day, but I'm not aging that way. I am aging by losing the elasticity from my face, and I'm losing fat pads on my face. So my already long face is getting longer and more gaunt, whereas some of my friends are getting very textured. Their skin is getting very, very, very lined. I think trying to tar everyone with the same brush is where you're gonna make a mistake, because we all have different things that we need to address. What we can all do as we age is a certain thing. We can all get into a simple but consistent routine that will help to keep our skin cell turnover going. So everybody should be exfoliating. Different people will need to exfoliate more frequently. There'll be different types of exfoliators that will work for different people. We should all be hydrating our skin, which is the same concept as when you're thinking of nutrition. You need to drink and you need to eat. You need to hydrate your skin and you need to nourish your skin. So everybody should be exfoliating. Everybody should be hydrating. Your moisturizers and all of those other serums should be targeted to what you need, but everyone should be using SPF.
Okay. I think the SPF, again, with my children, we used to run around in the 80s, and I'm sure without any factor 50, my kids have been slathered in it from birth. And that's the one thing I do insist on from them, because you might not want it now, but your skin will thank you at some point in the future.
This is another thing, reason why I think my skin has stayed good. My sister has albinism. So growing up, we were hot on SPF.
Right.
My mum was fastidious with it, and I have been fastidious with it, and I think it has held my skin in really, really good stead. So I still have had some areas of sun damage, but I spent all my time outside. I think it could have been a lot worse. So I think I'm kind of like I'm the evidence 30 years on that it works. But yeah, everybody should be using SPF. Don't listen to those people that tell you that it's harmful. Skin cancer is the most harmful.
It is horrific. So I think a lot of people watching this and a lot of people listening will have stuck with what they know. They will have learned to do the makeup from reading, I don't know what magazines we were reading in the 90s, Just 17.
Yes,
more magazine. Yes. Shocking. But again, we didn't have YouTube, so there wasn't tutorials.
No.
There was just diagrams of these sort of very long eyes that look nothing like my eyes, with like what colours to put on. So we all put like a white line at the top.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like a black smudges as well. We did a lot of black smudging. And I remember trying to poke a pencil into my eye, the waterline, and nearly blinded myself.
Yeah.
And also over plucking of the eyebrows. My friend of mine got drunk one night, and we were trying to shave them because neither of us could bear to pluck her eyebrows. And of course, we'd had a few drinks, and she slipped and shaved half an eyebrow off. And then we didn't have the right type of pencil to draw it back on. So we've all got these very bizarre looking over plucked eyebrows now.
Yes. I blame Christina Aguilera for mine.
Yes.
Or Gwen Stefani.
She ruined us, absolutely ruined us and our eyebrows, and some of them will never recover. I've seen people that they've had them tattooed back on because they're not. Yeah. And then big brows came into fashion. You think, oh no, will the skinny ones ever come back again?
They are. So skinny brows are coming back. This is the thing. So for all of I think for the 40-year-olds, we are actually kind of almost in a little bit of a beneficial time frame, because much like when I was growing up and I was young, I started wearing flares and trying to dress like a hippie, and my mum would say, I used to wear that, and I'd be like, oh God, I don't care because you're my mum. But now I see my daughter wearing the 90s fashions, and she's berating me because I've not kept any of my clothes. But actually, the 90s makeup has made its way back round, but it's a softer, more modern version. But that's the 30-year cyclical fashion thing that happens.
With more blending, I hope.
With more blending and with much better technology and with instructions. But you'll see a lot of these young whippersnappers that are doing these looks, and they're calling them retro looks, 90s looks, and you're like, no, shoot me dead. That's what I used to wear.
Me when I walked into my daughter and I were out shopping. She's 16. We walked in. I said, "This is like I had literally all of these clothes in the 90s," and she goes, "Yeah." And she used that word, "Oh, well, it's retro. It's like vintage." And I'm like, "Oh God, shoot me, please."
We go shopping in a retro charity shop near us, and my daughter goes in and she spends all her Christmas and birthday money, and it is literally just the clothes that I wore. But I love that. I love that. I love that familiarity of it. But makeup wise, actually, we're in a really good position at the moment because it's not that far off what we were doing. It's just our face has changed. Our skin tones probably, you know, you're going to just need to do more in certain aspects, in certain ways, but it's not so dissimilar as it was in, for example, in 2016, where everything was just drag. We have a much
Yes.
more familiar aesthetic now to kind of be inspired by.
I think that's a really good point. And I think for me as well, it's sometimes hard to keep up with, oh, that looks so 2016. Now, in my head, 2016 was about 4 years ago, when the reality was it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
COVID did something to my brain. I have no concept of time anymore. What advice would you give to somebody like me who was never taught or wasn't a particularly girly girl growing up? So I did wear makeup, but I wasn't surrounded by, you know, family members wearing makeup. So there was never that sort of teaching element of it. Who wants to try and do something away from what I've always done? What advice would you give? Just that bit of confidence to where would you start?
So I'll tell you, the first place I would start is make sure that you're wearing the right colour foundation, because nothing ages you more and nothing throws off the rest of your makeup than being in the wrong base. So now is the time that you can establish exactly what your skin tone is, and then honestly everything else kind of then almost falls into place. So it's not something that's easy for me to kind of teach without visually, but as an overview, we're kind of, you've got skin tones, you've got cool, which when I talk about it as in pink and rosy undertones; warm, which often has warm yellow golden undertones; olive, which is kind of warm but a bit flatter; and then neutral. If you have, like me, and people can go onto my TikTok and they can see my skin tone really, really easily, I am very pink. I'm pink from my hairline to my tippy toes. If I try and wear the really trendy golden neutral foundation, I look jaundiced. I look flat. I have to do so much work to try and bring that life back into my skin. So
Right.
understand your skin tone, learn your skin tone, and treat yourself to the perfect foundation or skin tint or tinted moisturizer or something, so that you don't have that disconnect between your face and your body, because it's aging, and it will make, if you have pinkness on your body and you're trying to make your face look really neutral, you're going to make your chest look even ruddier.
Right. So
we age on our décolleté as well, don't we? And so we don't want to make our face look so drastically different from our body. So that would be my first tip. And then something that tends to happen as we age is we lose our definition and we lose our contrast. So I know that my lashes aren't as thick and dark as they used to be. I know that my lip line isn't as sharp as it used to be. So I add those things. That's how I create a youthful makeup. I add the definition back. I add the colour back. Because we tend to, if you think about like really old ladies, that just your hair fades, your lips fade, your eyelashes fade. You don't want to fade. And this is what I implore women not to do. Don't become beige. Don't just suddenly, shrink away. Add that colour back. Add that blush on. It doesn't have to be strong, stripy blush. Add that flush. Add that colour back to your lips. If you're wanting something to add a youthfulness back to you, don't be afraid of colour, because you're losing that. Add that back in, and it brings you to life. And it's one of the first things I do when I sit people down. And I say, do you wear bronzer? Do you wear blusher? And they say, oh, no. And I put it on and I'm like, look, it makes you look vibrant. And I think maybe that's the 90s memory, where we were all just beige, taupe, fawn, black eyeliner, concealer lips. But it's not always flattering.
No, I think about my grandmother as well. She always wore red, pillar box red lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
Till the day she died, pillar box red lipstick, and it was the most fabulous colour ever. But I think you're right about the blush. It's because I'm ginger underneath all the many, many years of trashing my hair with box dyes. But having the blush, I always felt very self-conscious about putting blush on. So I was terrified of blush. And my face was, for probably a decade, very matte. It was the concealer lipstick. When you look
Yeah.
back, you think we had stripped. But obviously, doing that now, I'd look like a pale person off American Horror Story is what I would look like. But I tell you what, though, I feel, and for anyone who watches this as well, I have bright red hair. I've got lots of tattoos. I love colour. And I never feel happier than when I do put crazy. I've got one eyeshadow palette, and I don't know, it's probably some 50p thing I found in a bargain shop or something, but it's got like a rainbow palette. And I never feel happier than when I've got ridiculous colours on my eyes. But then I do that and I think, oh, but do I look like a drag artist? Do I look? And I start second guessing myself then and thinking, when actually this is really the time in my life where in every other aspect, I really don't care I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. And I'd like to feel that makeup wise as well, where, I do not care.
I always say to somebody, when people say, does it suit me? I tell you what suits you better, the confidence to pull something off. But when I talk about colour, so when you talked about, you said your gran always wore a pillar box red. When I've got somebody in my chair who's just so scared of colour and I say, can we try a bit of colour? And they say, I don't like red. And I said, that's fine. Because actually there's an infinite amount of colours between concealer beige and red. So when I talk about colour, I'm talking about find the colours that are in your skin. So one of the most flattering things is actually look at your lip colour and then enhance it a little bit. And that colour can translate onto your cheeks. Colour doesn't have to be yellow, green, purple eyeshadow. Colour can just be more colour than what's in your face. So if you've got a lot of redness on your chest and lots of like tan, sun damage, pull some of that colour. Find that sun damaged colour. That will be your tan colour. And use that as a bronzer. Use that as an eyeshadow. Like, just don't flatten yourself out. Put that colour back in. It's called a Your Lips But Better, isn't it? Or like a bitten lip. But it's one of the first places I start with people who are petrified of colour. And the instant, it's just like they've been resurrected.
Just a bit of warmth and
a bit of warmth.
Yeah.
A bit of warmth, a bit of contrast, a bit of blood. Looks like you've got blood flow.
Fantastic.
And it's I know that a lot of people, so it's much like when you go grey, when you lose that colour from your hair, most of us will go through a stage where we're trying to dye our hair, aren't we? And put that pigment back in. It's the same thing with makeup, and it's the same thing with when you lose that contrast and colour from your lips. But the minute and so many people now, I think, especially because of lockdown, have embraced their grey, that's when women are suddenly, I think I see these women, I've got friends that have embraced their grey, and I think, God, you just look like a goddess. You look like you've just sort of sat in your throne of just acceptance. But that's when you just need to pop that little bit of definition and that little bit of colour back in. And that's all it is. You're not trying to look like you did when you're younger, but you're just trying to bring some of that youthfulness back in, if that's something that's important to you. Not everybody wants to look youthful, I get that, but it doesn't have to be a big rigmarole. It doesn't have to be a big full 40 stage makeup. It can just be a few little things. That lipstick on your cheeks, you can even take it through your eyes. You can pick one colour and put it everywhere. Eyes, lips, cheeks is a really lovely chic way of doing a makeup look. Curling lashes is one of the best tips I give women as we age, because we lose our lash strength. Curl those lashes, get them standing up, showcase them. Learn to groom your brows just to get that framing back in. Again, doesn't have to be a big, sharp, hard, solid brow, but just give yourself that frame. All of these little tips and tricks can be used together or just individually, and they're all easy but impactful.
Fantastic. And I think they're really useful tips as well, because I think particularly if you're not used to wearing a lot of makeup, or you don't wear a lot of makeup generally day to day, it's very daunting to think of having to do a 40-step process to make yourself look and feel confident. Contouring. So I just want to touch on contouring. And you mentioned before, it's like people telling you to put it. So I've watched hours of content online, and the advice is everyone, like 20-year-olds are saying, if you're over 40, you need to put your highlighter line up here, and it's great. But then how far do you go with it? Because I'll do my makeup not every day, some day, and I'll do it in this particular lighting. And then I go in the other room and it's like, my God, I look like I've drawn stripes on my face. It's too dark, it's too light, it's too contrasty. But then if you want that look that like you see with the filters or you see after the tutorials, and I think it's easy for people to forget that that's people's TikTok or Instagram makeup. And if they went out in public, that's going to look really different. And I've seen people have their photographs taken, their contour looked fabulous, absolutely fabulous in the room. Then they had their photo taken and oh boy, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that looks completely different.
So I'm going to give you my honest view on contouring. I never do it. Ever on me.
Wow.
I very rare, occasionally I will sculpt a client, and I think that's very different to contouring. But when you think of contouring actually is not new. We all learn, I'm a classically trained makeup artist, we all learned the art of contour because black and white TV people were contouring. When they say like, oh, the Kardashians and their makeup artists invented contour, get out my face. It is such, that's not, they're just who brought it to the mainstream. Yeah. Contouring is there to add shadows. It's brilliant if you're on TV and film or if you're in really full front on light. None of us are in real life. The contouring that we're seeing on everyone at the moment, and I'm talking about in the moment being the last decade, because it's not gone away. Oh, I've just had a cup of tea brought in by my husband. Thank you very much.
Oh, hey, husband.
Yeah, you're right.
Thanks, darling. Contouring in the way that we're seeing everything, that is drag-esque contour, which is amazing because drag queens are some of the most talented artists that the industry has ever created. But that is to feminize a male face. And when you do it the other way around, often what happens is you end up masculizing, is that a word? A female face.
It is now.
It is now. As I've aged, because like I said, I'm going to be aging differently to you, to, Jenny next door.
Yeah.
My face, where I was talking before, how I've lost the fat pads of my face. My face is becoming longer. It's becoming more gaunt. If I contour, I am speeding up that aging process. Right? So I don't want to contour. As I age, I want to add youthfulness and plumpness back into my skin. And contour is not it. And I don't think it's it for a lot of people. There are other things you can do to add dimension to your face. Bronzer, blusher, things that are much more flattering, that translate so much better from real life to camera, from different lights. A bronzer is much more mistake proof to do in your rearview mirror when you pull up, that will still look relatively good when you get into your office. Contour is not. And I think people shouldn't put that pressure on themselves to contour. Learn to do everything else first. If you then decide that you want to learn to sculpt your face, fine, but you probably don't need to.
I think that's really reassuring to hear, actually, because I've had a go and the results were not what I not good. I don't even have words to describe how bad it was, and how time consuming it was.
Yeah, because you have to, if you want a full glam makeup, then you can contour because you are going to be building it up with everything else that's around. I want my skin to look like skin, and I want to look natural, and I want to look fresh faced in real life. You would have to blend that contour to oblivion, and then what's the point?
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, and it's the same with contouring noses. I get comments all the time on TikTok. Why don't you contour your nose? For people that can't see me, I have a strong nose.
I also have a strong nose, and it's always been my least favourite feature, a bone of much annoyance for years and years and years, is my nose. Can I contour
I agree. Well, you could, but I tell you what, it's contouring your nose is one of the hardest things in the world. I refuse to. I tell you why. I'm going to get a bit philosophical here.
That's all right. Go for it.
At some point in time, my nose would have been considered the most attractive trait, right? Because all of this tiny, slim button nose, that's current. That's what people currently find aesthetically pleasing. Just like I am waiting patiently for Renaissance bodies to come back into fashion because I think I would be absolutely on trend. My nose is such a blatantly important part of my face. Why on earth Am I being made to feel bad that I don't have plastic surgery nose? I just don't get it. It's one of those things that I always swore when I grew up that I wouldn't get married until I had a nose job. I hated it so much. Now I'm like, how dare you? This is it's an important functional part of my face. I'll just work around it. I'll just wear glasses that are so big that it draws people's attention away from my nose. I will wear my hair so big. I just think it's one of those things we are shaming ourselves for a part of your face that actually, however many 100 years ago, I would have probably led Roman armies with my nose.
Well, absolutely. And you will again, quite possibly.
Absolutely.
And I think this is the thing, is I feel a lot of the time, this is for any of us who've got daughters and stuff, is what are we supposed to be ashamed of this week? Is it cellulite, which is completely natural? Is it there's this wonderful rugby player, Ilona Ma. I love her. And
Yes.
she is confident. And it's like, showed a picture, she's a strong woman. And I love those kind of role models for the next generation. And she's like, she's beautiful, she's strong, she's all of those things, but she's damn confident with
she's
it.
Funny, she's successful.
She's brilliant. And I think but otherwise what I see is new trends that come along. And I'm a complete TikTok whore. I am all over that. I am, every new trend. I'm currently on some bizarre cherry tomatoes on a bridge in Dublin TikTok. Don't even ask. Weird. It'll probably come on your For You page soon. But then I think it's every time I see a new beauty trend, it's, I'm supposed to be ashamed of how this looks this week.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, who is a weightlifter, and she's a competitive weightlifter, and she is strong, so impressive. Yeah, but I haven't got legging legs. I said, what the? Got legging legs? It's what you need, you should have. Yeah, and it's like really, really skinny legs that look great in leggings.
So I had a conversation with my daughter similarly about 3 years ago, and she came home from school and she said, why don't I have a thigh gap? And I said to her, because you're not a flamingo, you don't need a thigh gap. Fair enough, some people have them, but only flamingos need a thigh gap. I said, and girls with thigh gaps drop their phones down the toilets. I said, darling, we don't, right? And then she was with Guide, she was with Brownie Guides, and she went to Guides one evening and they went to do a tryout session at the local rugby team. She went for her tryout, she came back and she said, they've signed me, and we are 2.5 years into her playing proper full contact rugby. Honestly, for anyone who is listening who has a daughter, I know football's getting really big for girls. Rugby is one of the most phenomenal sports for women. They are pushing so much money behind women's rugby. It's so good for their body confidence. She's fit, she's healthy, but she said, I just watched the under-18s play. Some of them, Mum, they've got such strong legs. Can you help me get my legs strong? And there's not been a single word about my body doesn't do this. I'm like, and I watched an Ilona Ma video and I sent her it. And she actually said, someone said, why do you never, you don't do that kind of hopping and skipping? She went, why do I need to run around somebody when I can run through them? Right. And so it's so funny that you said that, because I just think, please let this be the tipping point for this generation to see. I know that it's not going to be that easy. And my daughter is a really good juxtaposition of, she plays about 6 sports, but she loves sitting down and playing with lashes. And I said to her, as long as you know that you can walk out the house with none of that on. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I don't want her to get caught up in that whole I can't leave without. But this generation have got, I think we've put them in good stead. I feel like we've given them a good leg up to let them run with it. And can they be the ones to tip? You know, I hope that I'm still around at 90 screaming and shouting, egging them on, because I think it's time, isn't it?
I agree. So we're going to end on that very positive note about body positivity, us being more positive towards ourselves and towards other women, I think, as well, because you do find that sometimes it's the women, most disappointingly, when it's women tearing women down in the comment section is what bothers me more than anything.
Always women.
So this is our shout out there for body positivity and general positivity towards the very natural process of aging and how we can be the best version of ourselves. Your details will be put in the show notes, and I hope everybody is going to race over and follow you. They probably already do follow you, to be honest. And I know I will be stalking you for more tips and things. I wish I'd actually done my makeup today, but I thought you're going to put me to shame anyway.
It's not what I look like this morning, don't worry.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll hopefully you may come back and do another episode one day.
I'd love to.
Thank you.